about being an expat here in the Dominican Republic and in Latin America in general. We're going to talk about law. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about lifestyles, and everything the Dominican Republic has to offer. The good, the bad, the ugly. Kind of like the Clint Eastwood Spaghetti Western, but here in the Dominican Republic. If you have any questions, we'll answer them for you. We're going to talk about everything that relates to being an expat, not just in Punta Cana, but Santo Domingo, Santiago, the North Coast, the East Coast, West Side, even the West Coast, everywhere. And if you want to be a patrocinador and have your logos up here and sponsor us, then let me know. Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Mario Fama RD Show. We are back right here from Punta Cana. But first, I want to take a second to thank our sponsors. Oh, well, we're going to get that video right up, but I want to say thank you to everybody. I know I've been gone for about 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks now, because sometimes it takes a little bit of time here. Holidays pop up, certain things happen, and traveling, and I like to do the show live. Sometimes I could tape it for you guys earlier on, but I'd like to do it live. So our first sponsor is Samana Group, samanagroup.net. Huge builder in Samaná. They're building some amazing things there. Check out their website, TCG Dominicana, my real estate company here in Punta Cana. And also, well, that's it, right? Okay. So I want to thank John from Dominican Home. He's back here as a guest. Love having him on all the time. Welcome back.
Mario, thanks for having me. Excited to be here, man.
My pleasure, my pleasure. Thank you so much for being on again. So I wanted to talk this week a little bit about what we've seen in the market. We're going to talk about the market here because we're both working the market in Punta Cana, but we're also going to talk about maybe things that we've seen in the market here in the Dominican Republic, because I think that September, October were two of the slowest months in real estate here, and in just general business, I think, because, when we talk about real estate, right, real estate is like people coming here, people buying. It connects directly with what we see in restaurants, what we see in the nightlife, what we see in general spending, right? Like the economy. If real estate is slow here in the Dominican Republic, and especially in beach towns like Punta Cana, everything else is slow right behind it. And a lot of it, I think, had to do with I know it had to do with the elections. I think this was one of the most important elections in the history of the world.
Totally.
Because I think we saw, you saw the ripple effect that it had worldwide, right?
Absolutely. And here's the thing is that people tend to delay large purchases, financial purchases, especially real estate, during election years. This is very common because they're in fear of economical changes, taxation policies, and this makes people very unsure. So I think now that it is completed and done, 50% people are happy, 50% of other people are unhappy. The one thing is we can move on and hopefully see economic growth.
Exactly. That's been my feedback from everything that I've seen as well. The people that are not happy want to leave the United States because they're not happy because of who won. Then the people who are happy, like I have friends that were here, and one guy was like, dude, my Bitcoin went up $25,000 in the last week. Another good friend of mine from the States, he said, my stock portfolio went up 40,000 since the election. So you have one group of people that I want to get out because they're not comfortable, they don't like who won, that's their prerogative. Then you have the other prerogative, the other people who are like, dude, I'm making so much money. And, regardless if you agree with who won or not, what we can, I think, see, if we really just take emotions off, right? Because, I understand this is very emotional for many people, but
it is.
If you remove the emotions, right, it's like the stock market went up. Crypto went up. World leaders are like, hey, let's stop war. Let's stop this. Let's quit this. Let's quit that. What you're seeing is the beginning, if it continues this way, right? We're seeing the beginning of a good 4-year run. That's what I think, like a business run. I know during his last, tenure as president, the economy was great. My accountant loved the tax benefits in the States. We had a great economy. Obviously, COVID hit, and how that was managed, that's up to everybody else to decide, right? But I think we're seeing at least an economic boom that we have coming for the next 4 years. So here in the Dominican Republic and many other places, I think Mexico, Panama, Dominican Republic, and then you have some of the other smaller nations. One of them that's on the radar right now, I don't know if you've heard about Uruguay. A lot of people are talking about Uruguay. Because it's an easy residency and super safe, super clean. Apparently it's boring, but it's really nice. And sometimes you get old, you want boring. We've all had too much excitement maybe at one point.
Maybe just a little bit. And there's been a completely renewed faith, I think, in the economy in general, And when it happens in the U.S., it affects everywhere else. And I know immediately we felt it here in Punta Cana. International buyers are excited, and they want to experience Punta Cana, the Dominican Republic.
Exactly. Like my friend. Okay, I just made 40,000. My stocks just went up 40 grand. Now imagine people that maybe went up 100, 150 grand. Americans and North Americans in general, when they have money, they invest their money. Europeans are investing because apparently in Europe things are not that good. So everybody who has money is investing their money and they're looking where to invest it, a lot of times out of the country. And that's just positive cash flow, right? If the economy does well, people invest in a solid, good economy. People do well. So I think that that's what I've seen. But I definitely think September was slow. And I think October was the slowest I've seen it in the 6 years that I've been working in real estate here.
Yeah, the last 3 months have been very slow. You know, people that are interested, but you can tell people have been waiting to see what happens economically and to get through this election and see what happens.
And I know because in my office, like I don't know if you guys do it, but in my office, what I do is I track a lot of the projects. So I have my secretary. It's not all of them, but let's say I have 30, 40 projects that I'm tracking throughout the entire Bávaro, Capcana area. So I can see monthly overall. I can see who my top 5 sellers are, and I can see who, you know, if you see a drastic number of sales from this to this to this, you can pretty much gauge the rest of the market. Though I do think that we're also getting into a very, very big, I keep saying this, we're going into a big resale market right now. A lot of people want, because there's so much inventory when it comes to things that a lot of people bought to resell, right? So those resales are coming up. They bought really cheap during the pandemic, and they're going to make their profit. Maybe the next owner might not make the same profit. They're buying a lifestyle buyer or whatever, but that initial buyer is going to make their profit, and they're putting it back on the market. So now you have the opportunity to walk into brand new units, because a lot of times the older units, you know, they were old and stinky, or they had needed work. You're getting like brand new units.
People were a little hesitant to do the resale units before, and now is what we're seeing. All these buildings are completed, and all these developers are completing their builds. People are going to want, like you said, the new developments, the new buildings, and they get the best of both worlds. And lots of them still come with the tax implications and everything like that.
Right, and especially like if some people bought as investors, right, and they're looking for tax write-offs, they bought it under an SRL, so that's telling you the SRL, you get the confiture that comes in with that, right? So that's also something that, you know, and like I went the other day, I went to look at Bourne, the finished product, right, and you know, Cortecito had, besides a few buildings that were nice, has a lot of old buildings. So you want to live in Cortecito, you were very limited. Now you see Bourne, you see the other projects they're doing there, and you're just like, wow, this is like super nice right now. And whether it's rental, whether you want to buy, we're also seeing a lot of people that want to rent right now. People that might not be ready to buy, because a lot of people that have a good portfolio in the United States are waiting to see how well it's going to perform over the next year, 2 years with the current government. So they might just say, hey, I want to rent for a year and then decide where I'm going to buy. So I've seen rentals go up a lot. The requests for rentals, even short-term, though I don't do it. I send it to somebody else. Yeah. But I've seen the request for short-term, long-term rentals jump in the last month, I should say. You know, and I never was a big rental company, but I'm moving towards that as well now because the demand, right? Build it and they shall come. Well, in this case, they're asking for it, so I got to build it right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the rental market is going to do really well, but specifically in areas like Las Calas, Cortecito, where you're very close to everything and you're close to the beach. I think those areas are going to continue to do very well for the rental market.
I agree. I think that that's where we're at now. And, you know, then what you're seeing is also opportunity in the secondary market. What do I call that? You know, the highway, right? The projects on the highway that are not necessarily prime, but now you can get a nice, new, shiny apartment. I'm one of those people. I moved because I wanted to be 10 minutes to my job, and I got a really great deal, and I'm in a really great apartment. It's all new. It's shiny. I furnished it myself with the way I wanted to my taste, so I'm the happiest kid in the world because I've rented apartments here before. Some of the apartments I rented were really, really nice, and some of them were just like, oh, Lord. You know, like
people are really seeing some of the benefits of locations like downtown in those newer developments because they can get a brand new apartment, affordable price, and most of them offer accommodations to the beach, to the malls, and they're close to everything, and the location is perfect.
Exactly. Like I'm a downtown guy. I was a big Capcana guy, and I love living in Capcana. But because I bought my office and I work downtown, I had to adjust. I actually had this conversation in my Tuesday morning meeting with my team because I was like, you know, I've always prided myself on being no more than 15 minutes away from work. Even when in New York City, like when I worked in Queens and I had my business in Queens and I became a manager for a company in the East Village, I moved to the East Village within 30 days. I gave up my apartment. I actually paid more to be a roommate situation until I got set up in my own apartment. And I refuse to be more than 15 minutes away from work. It's a law that I've lived my entire life, because I feel like wasting 30, 40, 50 minutes each way going back and forth is just time you can spend with your family, your friends, or doing nothing, you know? And I moved because of that.
Yeah, I agree. And every time I seem to jump on the highway from Punta Cana Village down to downtown, it just keeps on getting worse. So definitely the potential of living closer to work, closer to everything, has its upsides.
And that's what we're going to see, guys. Like, I mean, we're going to see a lot of people here that are coming here to work. You know, you have your vacation corrales, Cortecito Market, your White Sands, your Cana Rock. You know, you have a lot of vacation people looking for that are buying and renting. But then you got people like us that we live here, we work here. You know, we're in that upper income bracket of people that live and work here, and we are looking for convenience. 'Cause
Yeah, and I love living in Punta Cana Village and everything around, but there was weeks where we got to travel down to the office 5, 6, 7 times. It's a drain. I wish we were back in that area.
Exactly, because that's what happened to me. I used to have my office in Cap Cana, and I worked there, so I was the happiest person in the world. My agents didn't want to come to work because they were like, "Oh, it's so far." And I get it. You know, I got it when I did the flip. When I'm like, okay, I count how many tanks of gas I fill up on my truck a month. Then going back and forth. Then you forgot something at home. I always forget my AirPods. Oh man, my AirPods are back home. That's it. I have no AirPods today because I'm 40 minutes out. And then with the traffic, Punta Cana is becoming a city, right? It's becoming like a regular city here. We have highway traffic at times. We have if a light goes out or something breaks down on the road, it's becoming a full-fledged city. It's not like even the small towns. So Sua Cabarete, it rains a little bit. I was watching yesterday, and they were flooded out. 45 minutes to get down there with the lights and everything. It's everywhere. The entire country, all the little small towns that were smaller before are getting bigger now, and there are a lot more people, and obviously they have to hopefully do something about that.
And some of this infrastructure, when they built the roads, they get rain for an hour and the whole street's flooded. Especially, you see that all the time in places in Bavaro and Las Corrales.
Oh yeah, they don't quite, they haven't figured out here drainage, right? And that's a national thing. It's not Punta Cana. It's not everywhere. It's when you deal with private complexes here, like if you're in your gated community, if it's taken care of well and they built it well, you're not really going to see that problem. I don't see that going home. I didn't see that in Cap Cana. I don't really deal, maybe a little bit here and there, but I didn't really deal with that. But throughout the entire country, you see that. I think it's public versus private, right? When it's a private property, they do things differently. They fix things and they do it because it's a private company, technically, right? A private community. When it's public, it's a disaster. I mean, Santo Domingo, when it rains, it's like, forget it. You're done 3 hours in traffic.
Everyone thinks this is someone else's responsibility.
Right. And then you have issues like, here, like, because here we're still kind of under heat wave. So the thing is, the funds have to go there, come back to here. By the time they get here, I don't know what happened, and then things don't get done. So that's something they have to address because Punta Cana is growing so much right now, and there's so many apartments here. And I see that also. I mean, even the road to Sosua, tons of cars going there. Las Terrenas, they're building tons of properties there, so the people are going to be flooding into it. The small beach towns are no longer going to be small beach towns, and what I mean, not necessarily in size, but in density of people.
Yeah, and one thing is for sure, though, is it might not be at the speed that we want it to, of course, but the infrastructure is growing. You can see lots of stuff happening, which is good because as all these complexes get completed and the volume of people increase, they're going to need that infrastructure. So that is a very key point, I think.
And I think the way they do it here, they wait until everything bursts and then they do it. So right now we're at the burst point, and then they're going to do it. Then we'll burst a little bit more, and then that's what they're going to. That's what they're going to do. I know there's 2 roads to Las, like from Los Corrales, that area. There are 2 roads to the highway that are pretty much ready. They just have to finish them up.
That's right. We heard the same thing, and there's a couple there that they're ready to open soon, and I'm excited for it because especially when you get downtown, there's major congestion there. If I have to go there between 4 and 6, I'll just run through Cocotel.
So now the thing about that is, and I my office is there, and I do videos. If you guys watch my Instagram, I do tons of videos. I even put Nyame News, which if you want to know what Nyame is, I'll explain to you. It's a yam, but it means like idiot news, because what we're missing here is lights, actually, like lights, because downtown, what you would need, right where I come out of my office on the side of Jumbo, you definitely need a light there. Then you need that to be timed with a light at Cocoloco, which is like where the little colmado and the right there, right before like the parking of downtown mall, and then you need another light where the people are coming out of San Juan. Noah, San Juan, actually 2 lights there. When you really think about it, that should be equally timed, right?
There absolutely should be a couple lights in there. It's a disaster if you try and go between 4 and 6, especially on a Friday, busy Friday.
Last Saturday, I had a time that I was going to drop off my car, go to the gym from like 1 to 3 while they wash the car. Plan gone. I left my house like at 12:15. By 12:45, I was still stuck in traffic. Oh no, actually like 1 o'clock. No, I overdid it. I forgot it was like 1 and change. I was like, forget it, and I had to do some errands. I could not get to downtown because something happened, and I just couldn't get. We were all stuck there looping around.
One thing to give them credit for, they're not great about preventing the issues, but when an issue happens, they seem to take care of it pretty quickly. I think there was a light out right at the one light right at Jumbo was out, and they're on it. So when stuff hits the fan, they tend to jump on it pretty quickly. But
We need a lot
what we
of
need to
stuff to hit
see
the
is
fan.
prevention.
We need a lot of stuff to hit the fan, guys, so we can get it done here. But it shows that the area is growing. There's a lot of opportunity here for people, and I think now, after this election, I think that we're going to see business pick up this busy season, because I think even before the election months, right? A couple, here in the Dominican Republic, everything almost went crazy because of the reforma fiscal, which was like what they wanted to do to adjust the taxes. We've talked about, I think, on one of the other shows. So the local population and those of us that work here, pay taxes here, everybody was like, oh, snap, crackle, pop. Things almost went like, nuclear level on the street.
One thing that this election really showed us is people want better lifestyle, and they want to take it. And they're going to look at places, other than that, they're going to deliver that lifestyle, Punta Cana being one of them.
Exactly, because in Punta Cana, it's the best when it comes to these cities, right? It's a city within a biggish I don't know if that's the word, right? Biggish country, because you have other beach towns in other countries, but they're either very small, and there are people that like that. Those people go to Sosúa, Bayaibe, Cabarete, Las Terrenas. You have that. But if you're looking for modern beach town, because one of my it's an interesting story. I used to watch, what do you call it, House Hunters International, right? And they would have it in the Caribbean. Mm-hmm. And I would see these guys, and they would go like all these islands, and they have a little $1 million house with a little water on the beach downstairs. And they're like, this is so cute. Oh, we're only 45 minutes out from the center of town, honey. We should get this house. And when you're in New York and you're freezing and you're looking at it, you're like, 45 minutes driving to the center of town on some little island. How cool is that? Yeah, until you actually live there.
It's very cool, and the idea of it is great until you need to get your everyday amenities. And what's great about here, people that want that vacation home with all the amenities and the infrastructure, Punta Cana really offers that.
And golf.
And golf.
Golf. I think that's one of the biggest draws to this side of the island and to this country, and especially to this side of the island, because I talk to people and they're like, why is the development not as much in other places? Las Terrenas is limited by the way it's set up as the town and everything, but like the North Coast guys, so Cabarete, they're like, why aren't they building this and why aren't they doing that here? I'm like, well, because you don't have golf. Golf is money, and money follows golf. If you don't have good golf courses, every place that I know, like, look at successful cities like Panama City, they have a nice golf course. What is it, Santa Maria or something like that there, right? They have a really nice golf course. If you don't have Florida, tons of golf courses, right? You don't have usually wealth without golf. It's a necessary. People who have a lot of money like to play a lot of golf, and you need to have that for people to come in.
They have incredible golf courses here and incredible golf communities, which give people who love to golf a chance to live right on the golf course with beautiful golf course views. And lots of these communities have their own private beaches.
Exactly, because that's where we're going here in Punta Cana. It's going to be beach clubs. Which beach club do you belong to? And that's pretty much it. And, you see the growth everywhere. Like, I don't know how much you follow the country's news, but I'll touch a topic right now. You guys on the North Coast, it's going to either be, it's kind of like the U.S. elections, their opinions on this, right? You're either extreme left or extreme right on it. So the kiosks, that's the best way I can call it, those little huts that they had on the beach in Sosúa Beach. I don't know if you've been there.
Absolutely, yeah.
So they tore them all down. Okay, because they want to modernize the area. So now I'm going to talk about you guys on the north. You guys say I don't like you guys. I like you guys. I really like you guys. I live there. I have Playa Alicia tattooed on my stomach with the Puerto Plata mountain right there. So so we'll talk about this now. What happened is part of the growth in this country. Sometimes the growth is uncomfortable when it's happening, but the long-term results are positive for the people, the country, the visitors, and everybody. So they tore all these things down, right? And then I see all these expats, and they're like, oh, my God, this is so sad. This was the charm of Sosúa. Yes, but no. A couple of things, and then people don't know. Because when I lived in Sosúa, it was every gringo wants to have a beach bar in the Caribbean. So I wanted to rent one of those places and do a little bar. We were just talking about that. We've both been in the restaurant business, service industry, and I wanted to have a bar there. And I found out that there was no title. Even the person who owns it doesn't have a title. There were no titles. They were squatters, basically, right? And that's a very common thing in this country. And I know this from New York. I'm from New York City. So if you go to Washington Heights, you go to the Bronx, they take the fridges, the furniture, they put it on the street. I got photos, videos I can show you. They put grills and they start selling food. It's like, no, public space is my space. So they did that there, and they took it over for many years. And the government now, because they want to clean up Sosua, they want to maybe change the demographic, then they want to do these things, they tore them down. They paid some of the people who had some kind of permits or whatever, they paid them off. The other guys, I guess not. In order to grow, you have to go through an uncomfortable phase. It's not, I know, like some of the expats come in, it's so ethnic. Oh my God, I love it. It's ethnic. Yeah, but it doesn't help the people. And a lot of times, like in Macau here, I saw that before Dreams came to Macau, they would scale the fish right there. They'd have rats. They'd have all of that stuff. And then a bunch of people from Corrales wanted to go up there and clean. And they were like, we don't need you here cleaning our stuff. So how can you have growth? How can you have growth and better jobs for the people in the community if you don't modernize the area? People want modern, modern, clean. And also those people weren't paying taxes. If you go there was no comprobante fiscal for most of them or any of them or any of that kind of stuff. So, of course, the government's going to be like, wait a minute, you're on my land. You're not paying any taxes. You have no titles. And we have the opportunity to modernize this beach area. It's a no-brainer.
I think it's very important to the growth in the hospitality industry here, which is going to directly affect the tourism, and they affect each other so closely. I think it's really important for them to take the next steps and modernize some of the things within the hospitality industry here.
I definitely think so, because things will be cleaner, the service will be better, and there'll just be a higher. Look, Dominican Republic is not a cheap place like it used to be. So if you're going to offer something to expat, Frank, it was with Don Rainieri here. He made a very good point. A couple of years ago, I read this, or I saw a video, I don't remember what it was. He said, in order for the Dominican Republic to be able to compete in the tourism, let's remove right now the resorts, right? You have to offer people more than the beach. You have to. It's okay. You're on the beach 2-3 days. How you doing? I want to do some stuff. I want to go do activities. They have tons of stuff, but that means organization. That means putting everything together here for people.
I think you hit it on the head, organization. So I did hospitality in Canada for years and years and years. And the one thing, that maybe you like or don't like is all the permits, all the regulations that Canada has, but it makes it organized. Now, I think what happens here is they have lots of freedom. You don't need a lot of the permits, you don't need a lot of things, but then along with that comes the issues and comes along the consistency, the quality, and I think the tourists and I think the industry in general, I think is going to start to demand that stuff.
Definitely. With the pricing that we're seeing, I mean, I've been coming here for 20 years, and I can tell you, especially since COVID, the prices have skyrocketed. So now, if you're going to charge your premium price, I'm not paying a premium price in a shack. And I also might not want a shack. I know some people do. And I think a lot of the people that wanted the charm, the old time guys, but people coming in new to a place, they want modern because you're competing with stuff like that. My daughter went with her family to Tulum for her mom's side of the family, and she was like, Dad, Tulum is lit. And they have clubs and they have bars and cenote and all that stuff going on. Right. So you're competing with them. If you're trying to take away tourism, you're competing with them. You're competing to a certain extent with Cartagena also, because Cartagena has a nice culture, and Colombia, their numbers are getting better and better in tourism. You're competing with places like Panama, which they're revamping their airport in Bocas del Toro, which is like this archipelago of like all these crazy islands and everything like that. So if you don't step it up now, it's like the same thing with the semáforo, right? With the lights. Like, don't wait until you need the light and everybody's crashing into each other. Do it now to compete. Otherwise, other people are going to eventually take away your tourism.
And I think that's one thing that people in North America right now who are looking for either vacation home or a new destination, period, that's going to be one of the factors that they look at Punta Cana, because it has all of the infrastructure and everything set up, is where a lot of these other little places, they might not. So I think it's very important for Punta Cana to continue to grow and continue to develop that infrastructure.
And that's what it is. I think when people are looking to invest, right, we go back to the 45 minutes away from town. you and I living here, we know 25 minutes away from center of town can be a pain. So, and then not only that, but here we have Unidos. Today, I just did a whole spin through Bayonne, the hardware store, because I wanted to see how it compares to Santiago, what they have, what they don't have. So when people ask me, I can help them better and be like, okay, you can find these sliding plastic doors for your kitchen. You like, in New York, you can find it here. You can find that here. Look at the prices. I always walk around and I look at it. We have Unidos for the hardware. We have supermarkets. We have electrodomésticos. Like right now, I want to get a new air fryer. So I've got like 5-6 places that I have to go to see what the prices are that I can buy. But I have options. It's not like, okay, I went to Jumbo, take what you have, take what they have, and that's it. No, I'm going to go to 5 stores right now, see who has the best Black Friday offer, and then pick up an air fryer, right? I did the same thing with furniture. I needed some more furniture for my new apartment. I wanted my final pieces. I went to Ilomel Outlet, and they had a Black Friday sale, and I got furniture that looks like it is designer furniture, right? It's affordable designer furniture, which is way better than IKEA, and I got it for less than what I pay in IKEA.
You can see that options are starting to get better, and consumers are starting to get more choices from the options that are out there.
Exactly. Now we have a comment. Kyle Jerome Carter. Hi, Kyle. Thanks for joining us today. Sosua Beach is so beautiful. I can't wait to see the plazas that go up and the new road connecting Santiago to Puerto Plata for a faster drive to the beach. 2 things I will address on that. One, I definitely agree with you. I think it had its charm, but I think its charm passed because there's something, eating food that's clean. Like, how can I put it? Cleanliness, having, quality, right? Building something of quality, I think most people, if you had to take a vote, most people would build quality, right? Remove the people who have an interest on it, right? Or the guys who are used to 150 peso cheeseburger, and then you'll see that most people want quality. Now, the highway you're talking about is the Amber Coast Highway. Once that Amber Coast gets built, you might see me again in Santiago with another office. That's the only reason I'm not there, because in Santiago, in order for me to make money, I would have to do business in Sosua Cabarete, and driving El Cumbre or wrapping around to Puerto Plata. For me, I'm not doing it. The way people drive here, I'm driving less and less nowadays. I've driven those roads for 20 years, and I'm not interested in doing it like 2 or 3 times a week. If and when they built that highway connecting, I got to tell you, that's going to be the bomb diggity, because Santiago. Like, I'm going this week, and tomorrow I'm going to Santiago, actually. I might see my friends there. Yeah, I go. And once they open up that highway, there's going to be on the North Coast, you guys are going to see a massive boom, because it's the tourism. Look, the tourism is going where it's going, and the all-inclusive is going where they're going. And I know everybody says, oh, Bergantine, and they're going to do this. These are all resorts. The resorts don't really bring a lot of business outside. And then if you're doing tours or anything outside, they take a huge piece of it. So they're not going to be your money. Where's your money going to be? It's going to be foreigners and locals. The whole Cibao, San Francisco, Santiago, La Vega, Moca, they're all going to funnel right in through that highway. You know how easy it's going to be to get to Sosua, Cabarete, y Puerto Plata? It's going to be incredible. These people are going to be let's go for 2 days. Let's go for the night. We come back tomorrow. Because now the only way to get, I don't know which way you went, but when you're in the Cibao or you're anywhere, the way to get to Sosua right now, you got to go to El Cumbre. That's like a highway up and down, and you're basically, you're risking 50 head-on accidents, and the one guy in the wheelchair, if he's still there, where they put up the string and ask you for money. That's been there forever, right? The other way around is going through the outskirts of Puerto Plata, going all the way down, coming in through Puerto Plata, Maimon, and all that kind of stuff. And then you got to cross Puerto Plata in the traffic, then to get yourself up to Sosua Cabarete, right? So it's not comfortable. And if you really look at it in the airplane, when you're landing in Puerto Plata, as the plane goes like this, you're like, oh, look, there's Puerto Plata. Okay, look, there's Santiago. They're that close in the airplane that you can see them. It's like here anyway. That's the distance. Mm-hmm. They're right there. So if they build that, I think the North Coast is going to get a massive boom. But a lot of locals and expats like me, who like being in Santiago, who like living in DR, that part of DR, and it's just going to be amazing, because you'll be able to live in Santiago. You'll be able to go down and work there. Yeah. It's going to have more development. You're going to have more Dominican and foreigners investing in the area. So I think if and when that happens, I say if and when, because I'm also waiting for the train, right? That train that we talked about, if that gets built, Santo Domingo to here, Santo Domingo, Santiago to here, it's a game changer. So the more they do, the more they build, the more it's going to grow. But they need to do those things in order for the growth to happen.
I think some of those smaller beach towns definitely will see some growth, although I still think that Punta Cana has a lot of growth yet to be had, and it's going to be seen in some different areas.
I agree, because what it is here, it's different, right? you'll get different kind of growth in different kind of areas from different groups of people, right? But what happens is the way Punta Cana is just one giant flat area, it allows for so much more to be, we already have the golf courses, right? So we're ahead on the golf courses, okay? We also have a lot of plain land here, which might not be the most scenic, land in the world, because the North Coast has the hills when you go up to Meaches or whatever, but it allows for a lot of build, there's supposed to be a Price Mart coming here also. I think the Price Mart's on the new highway right here, the one next to the gas station by Cocotá connecting to Verón. And then if I'm not mistaken, I can't guarantee, there might be a Sambil coming in Vista Cana at the front. I know they're building one big thing there, but I heard there might be Sambil also. So, I mean, you have so much room to build. This is going to be a city, and I keep saying it, downtown is going to be the center of Punta Cana, and with all the nightlife, the rest, that's what we need, because we need more fun here.
All the way down the highway, eventually that's going to be filled with stores and businesses and establishments. So, and I think that is one thing, is that people are going to continue to see the progress in Punta Cana, because it's the one place that you can do everything. You have incredible beaches, you have the malls, the shops, the restaurants, everything that Punta Cana offers, and reliability.
Exactly. And you're 2 hours from Santo Domingo, because if you live here, whether you're snowbirding or you're living here full time, you will understand that you do need to go to Santo Domingo for a ton of stuff, and you need to order things from Santo Domingo, and it's the ease of getting in on that highway. It does offer, it's unparalleled, because there's no other city that I know of in Latam where you can get this kind of stuff as a beach city, right? A beach city as big, as developed, but also you can drive through the country, because you go to Mexico, okay, my daughter, she's like, but I wouldn't drive through Mexico. That's one thing I would never do. I would never drive through Mexico. We already know. It's like Russian roulette, You don't have that problem here. I've driven all over the country. I'm driving tomorrow. I'm crossing all the way to Santiago, going south. I'm going west and north. I've done it a million times. So that is something that a lot of other countries, a lot of cities don't have to offer. And I'm thinking about it now that we're just thinking about it, right? I think for anyone seeing Punta Cana today, what you're seeing is a work in progress. This is just a work in progress.
Yeah.
And I'm one of the first ones when Yame News, I complain about the trucks, the dirt, the dust, and all of that, because it's fucking, I'm not supposed to curse, but it's freaking annoying, eh? But thinking about it, there's going to be in this area, they're going to build all the way to Meaches, but in this area, Bávaro, Punta Cana, in the next 10 years, let's just say, right, there's going to be a final product. We're right now midway through the through the product. When this final product is done, when the highways get fixed up, when they do all these different things, when everything finally falls in, it's going to be something like that doesn't exist in Latin America, I think.
I think so as well.
Because it's like, where else are you going to go to get all of this? And an airport. That's the other thing when I talk about, the different areas here, the airports also have a lot to do with the growth. You got to look at numbers. I always tell people, look at numbers. Numbers don't lie, right? You look at the arrivals, and yes, a lot of them go to the resorts, but all areas have some kind of resorts. But you have to look at the numbers. If the numbers are not growing in your airport, then the area is not growing. I think that you can't have no growth in the airport, but growth in the area.
And I think you hit it earlier where you said it's so important you're going to have access to the beach clubs, because there are so many resorts in Punta Cana that if you are living in an area, you're going to have a beach club to go to that offers everything, as local beaches are hard to come by.
Exactly. And that's what sets this apart here. And that's why everybody wants to come here. And one of the main things that we get, I get it, I don't know if you get it a lot, but I get it in those expat groups. I talk to people, and I've had clients ask me also. People reach out to me a lot, and they ask about work here, right? And it's like, oh, I'm looking for work in the Dominican Republic. I wanted to kind of address that a little bit. If you're going to come to the Dominican Republic, unless you're going to open up some type of business and you have the recourse, the money to do it, and you know what you're going to do, and you've been here for a long time, don't come here looking for a job. I think, because I have people like, I want to buy an apartment, or I want to rent an apartment, and I don't want to look for work. Work here doesn't pay well. No, I'll be honest, the things that make money in this country are real estate, if you own an insurance company, and if you work in the vacation clubs. And those vacation club guys, they remind me of the guys that worked in finance in New York, made a lot of money, but hated their lives. Don't ask me why. They make money, they make thousands of dollars a month, but they all just want to leave. I think it's just the way the boiler room, pressure that they have there, and that kind of energy just doesn't work for them.
I think there's a lot of pressure in that type of position. I don't think a lot of the people that do it have a passion for it, to be really honest.
Because it is hard. People ask me about those sales because it's like in real estate, at least for the most part, somebody reaches out to us. So like, hey, man, I saw this property. What's that about? But in vacation clubs, like, hey, they promised you a massage. Now, let me convince you to spend $10,000 to $60,000 on some vacation stuff you're going to be using.
Exactly.
Did you know that you needed to do this and this? Okay, So the people don't know they want the product. So I guess that constant pressure to do that. But there are not a lot of jobs out here. There are very few jobs that can pay a decent living wage, and the cost of living here is fairly high. Compared to many places in the world, I think. And I think people need to have that in their head when they're coming here. It's a great place to retire, golf. If you're going to work in real estate, if you're going to do some of the things that do well, or you're just a snowbird, or you're living on a pension or whatever, it's great. But don't come here thinking that you're going to work and you're going to be able to make a living here like you did back home.
Yeah, you're going to get a wake-up call, especially like in Punta Cana. Can you find cheap rent and cheap living expenses? Absolutely, but it depends where you want to live. If you want to live in areas like Punta Cana Village, Cap Cana, there's going to be that price tag, and it's going to be a lot closer to what cost of living would be in the U.S. and Canada, a lot closer than what people would think.
And then you have certain things that are more affordable, like health insurance. Okay, that's more affordable. But then you look at your electric costs, which is, the in Cap Cana, it's like 4 times, I think, of the price of Florida. Then South Florida. Then you come to Bávaro, it's 3 times. So you're going to have an offset on certain costs here. And I think people should get educated on that.
I agree.
And then people that want to open up a business, I know I've had people that come here and they want to open up a business. Listen, but they haven't been here, or they've been here like once. My biggest advice to those kind of people are, first come here, rent a place. If you want to buy, whatever you want to do. But stay here for a while before you invest in a business. Because you don't know, number one, if you want to do business in the country, if you want to do business in the area, you might say, hey, I want to do business in the country, but I want to do it in a different area. They say that there's a saying here, I don't know if you ever heard it, is if you want to have $1 million, come with 2 million, lose 1, and you stay with 1. Yeah. There's a reason for that, because it's so easy to get into business here.
Speaking from firsthand, going through it, we moved our family down 3 years ago, and I think it's very important to have that sustainable income, whether it be a remote job or such, when you're planning it. And have a good plan when you're setting it up, and rent a place like Mario said, and really get to know the areas.
Get to know the areas and get to know the areas within the areas. Because I thought at one point, I was like, oh, no, I'm going to settle in and I'm going to just get something, buy something in Cap Cana, and I want to be there. Then life changed because I ended up buying an office downtown, and now I'm tied into downtown. So I'm like, wait, I have to think about my commute. I have to think about where I'm going to be hanging out. What do I like to do? I still want to go, for drinks downtown, catch an Uber back home or whatever. I don't want to just go golf and go to have dinner and go to sleep at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So I'm still in a different lifestyle. So I was like, okay, cool. What is there for me to, where do I need to be? So even myself, I'm discovering myself and what I like and what I want. And it says, Kyle, again, that makes sense. Do you think that's why there's a lot more development investment into around the Presa de Tavera? Well, Presa de Tavera, so you guys understand, I'll answer his question on that. That's basically the mini Guatapé. Like Colombia has Guatapé, and if you've been to Colombia, it's Guatapé. Wow, wee. This is the smaller version of that. It's smaller in size, and they're starting to develop it because that's the beach for Santiago. It's an inside joke because people from the capital always like argue with people. You guys don't have a beach. You guys don't have any ocean or whatever. So, but it's really nice. It's basically what do you call it in English? A dam, where the dam holds the water, a reserve or whatever, right? Mm-hmm. That's what it is. I guess it is, right? Yeah. Right. So then they have jet skis, they have boats there, they have restaurants and everything like that. It's super cool. But I think the reason why they're investing in it because they're doing a lot of glam camping, a lot of this stuff. So a lot of those globes like the little bowls, you see the bubbles, they do that a lot in Colombia, and they're doing that a lot here because it is really nice over there. And it's kind of a little bit closer than Jarabacoa, and because you have the water right there, I mean, think about it, you could be one of those places, you can swim, you can jet ski, you can do whatever you want to do downstairs. So that's a lot. There's a lot of room for ecotourism in this country. Monte Plata, in that area there, Saoma, Jarabacoa. Constanza is just far to get to, and it's cold up there. It's really cold.
And it is stunning landscape. I don't think a lot of the people that think of Dominican Republic, especially from North America, realize the beauty here. We're driving up to Los Terrenos when we went a couple months back, And it is just stunning. The winding roads, the mountains. It reminded me, if you're from Canada, it reminded me a lot of BC. And then when we headed up to Kelowna, and they got vineyards up there, and it's incredible. And views of roads all along the sea. It's stunning.
Right. There's like difference even in like the soil. Like here we have the white rock. You go to La Serena, it's all red, like clayish. You go to Sosua Cabarete, it's regular brown dirt.
Yeah,
Everything is different. And I think, in that area there, there's a lot of, like, I mean, they're going to start doing that in Miches, because Miches, the minute you pass the hard rock, you start going up this way, you start seeing the landscape change, and you start seeing even the earth changes there, the color. It's not the white coral that we have here, the rock, whatever. It's all of a sudden starts to turn into hills and horses, and they have like lakes there and cenotes and all that kind of stuff. So I think that there's a lot of growth also in this country that has yet to be tapped into when it comes to ecotourism. People really dig that. They dig it in other countries. They're digging it here. And again, it's back to organization. I think it just needs to be organized. Like, remember that guy? There's like a presentador that he lives here in Punta Cana, and he was shipping the airplanes up there to make them into a hotel or a restaurant. I don't know if you saw that. I did a video with like an actual air. So he got the Wawa jets that are out of service, and they were shipping airplanes on the highway.
Oh man.
Yeah, like it was like maybe about a month, 2 months ago. They're shipping them up to Miches to do like a resort with like hotel / restaurant or something like that there.
Sounds like a disaster, but the possibilities, it really does.
Well, that was good. I like it.
But the possibilities of the ecotourism market here are incredible, and there's tons of ways they could go.
Yeah, because they haven't really started to get into that. It reminds me of one time I went to a resort in Manuel Antonio in Costa Rica, and it was interesting. It was my first time staying in a container. So because they didn't allow a certain type of building, so you're on a cliff overlooking the ocean. There's a national park there, Manuel Antonio National Park, and the entire hotel was built out of a container. It was the coolest thing in the world. Actually, it was really nice.
Beautiful there, though.
Yeah, and they're really nice. So I was like, okay, cool. So there's a lot of room to invent here. Like a friend of mine, good example of that, a friend of mine, he works with veterans. He's looking to open up a veteran center here in Punta Cana, and he has a veteran center in Santiago, and he also has a place, Jungla Vida, and they basically they do camping. They have those 8 houses that they built there. They have the river, they have the electric motorcycles, and they take the veterans up there for therapy. And it's full all the time.
Yeah,
in between locals.
You were mentioning the containers, or the sea cans, as they call them, and the creativity of the things that we've seen done with them, and the houses that they're building with them. We've seen some cool stuff in Canada too, where they literally build full houses with these containers, and you've seen them build some shops and stuff here with them too. It can be pretty neat.
I think so too. I mean, I don't know much about, and that was interesting when you called them what do you call them?
Sea cans.
Sea
cans.
Sea cans. All right, that's gonna stick in my head. Yeah, it's a can.
Those containers are
shipping.
built for shipping. Yeah.
Right. I've just never heard of sea cans. That's pretty cool. I wonder what's the lifespan on a place like that if you do it in one of these hills here. What's the lifespan of it? Like, how long could that last compared to like block construction, right? Or formaleta, which is being used a lot right now.
Those things are built out of straight steel, so they're very strong.
Okay, so yeah. Because you're better off doing it like that. Because I saw these guys one time right here at one of the car dealers on the highway. They were doing a what do you call it? They were selling these like little mini houses, like on wheels, right? Mm-hmm. But I went in there and I'm like, how much is it? Oh, $65,000-$75,000. Nobody's gonna spend $75,000 on one of these little things, like on the wheels. But I saw guys. I follow somebody on Instagram. I have to find their page again, where they're doing these houses. And they were like $35,000-$40,000 with the kitchen downstairs all packed in and everything, the bed upstairs and everything. And that's a great business concept here because people like to do that. And you put the little hot tubs, the gas hot tub, so it makes the water warm. And you see that in Jarabacoa a lot. People love going to the mountains here. People love going to the hills. They see the stars. I mean, it's beautiful. When I go to Sahoma and I went there, it was stunning. I need to just get back up there. But it's like an hour up from Santiago, so from here it's a drive, but it's beautiful, and his place is booked all the time. He does like a couple of times a year. He does like music. He has like a tarima there, people sing and everything like that. So there's a lot that still has to grow, I think, in this country here.
There's lots of room for growth. Talking about those pop-up homes, I don't know a whole lot about them, but I've seen them, and they can be installed fairly quickly, and they're actually quite affordable. So I think that's going to be something that down the road it definitely takes off.
I'm surprised that in this day and age we're still building the way we were building before, right? Like we're still putting block. We're still in the States they do sheet. I like the block even for Maleta. I like that better than I like the U.S. I am not a fan of the little aluminum beams and sheetrock. I feel like they're paper houses. Like I like having the solid houses here. I like you're on the wall.
I really do as well. I just think the the air circulation, and they need to develop some things to make them a little bit better.
You know what? Speaking about the circulation and the air circulation, right? I think a lot of that has to do. I don't know. I'm not an architect, but I think it has to do with the design. I think a lot of times they don't build. I've seen a lot of houses here being built like this, and you're like this, and you have just the door and a window in the front. There's no circulation coming in, and I think a lot of it has to do with the designing. I think the architecture of the properties and thinking about these things. You know, there's an interesting thing. I said we don't have a lot of Asian buyers here in Punta Cana. Not at least not from Asia. If they are, they're American. Right? They come here, right? Or from North America, whatever. And you know why? Like, let's say they decided today, we're going to go to China and we're going to do a big fair to bring people in here to buy in Punta Cana. It would never work. You know why? Because when you start to look at the apartments here, none of them are built feng shui. And people from that part of the world are very serious about the way the house is built. Your legs can't face the door. Your head has to face a certain way. In New York, working in real estate in New York, I can tell you they come in and the first thing they come into the house and they're like, which way is this facing? I'm like, well, I don't know. You have a compass on your phone. Go look. But they would ask me, where's that? Where's that? And I've even seen they take these two things as like a hanger, right? Pieces of a hanger. And they tie a chain link on the bottom. They screw it in like this. And they walk around the house and they measure the water flow underneath the apartment.
I've seen that before, and especially in the bedrooms where the window is and where the bed's going to sit.
Exactly. So that's, you know, those are things that eventually this country, if it wants to attract people from other countries, from other cultures, you have to think about that, because there's certain things that people will not, for religious purposes, for different purposes, they will not. And one of the things I'm just thinking about that, like appealing to different people, because, you know, we wing these shows, right? We have general topics, but we wing these shows. I think also what I've seen here, it's a very warm climate, but what I haven't noticed is a lot of kosher restaurants here. I thought about that, and I think that if they did that, that would also open up the area in business. I was talking to somebody who works for a developer, and she said to me, she was married. I never thought about that. She was like, that's actually a very interesting point, because I go a lot to Panama, and Panama has tons of kosher restaurants. They have a big Jewish community there, and you don't really get, if they're observing, they're not going to come here.
You see a lot of restaurants that offer different cuisines, but not restaurants that specialize in it. And, you know, most of them, it's very hard to do different things very, very well. And I think it would be amazing. So you see lots of Italian restaurants, and obviously the pizzerias here. I'd be totally down to see a lot more traditional restaurants.
Speaking of that, I think I've seen more pizzerias and Italian restaurants here than in Italy. Yeah. I think if you go to Italy, you get less. It's like, what are you opening up? Pizza, pasta, pizza. Mm-hmm. There's literally pizza and pasta on every corner in the Dominican Republic. And I think it's mostly Latin America. I remember seeing that when I first went to Costa Rica. I was like, what the hell? What is this? But it's you know, and it is the food scene here is starting to develop. I think, especially if you go to Santo Domingo, you go places like that, people are starting to really try. I think also the local population has a different taste bud. You know, an interesting story. So one time I was with a friend of mine from the States here, and we were in Santo Domingo. He lives in Capcana. And he ordered, I believe it was an old-fashioned, and it came with a lot of brown sugar on the bottom. So he gets to call the waiter. He calls the guy over, the owner, because the people who were with knew the owner. And he's like, dude, there's like tons of brown sugar here on the bottom. Why did you do that? It doesn't come like that. The guy was like, look, to you it doesn't come like that in the United States, but here we do that because the palate of the people here is very sweet. They like sweet things. You know, like you go to certain places, like go to Jamaica probably, it's like, you know, jerk chicken and everything, and everything is like spicy. But here their palate is very sweet. So we have the restaurants trying new things with cuisine, but also trying to appeal to the local public as well, who has a particular palate, if that makes sense.
And of course, they're working with workers and the skill level and knowledge level where their food background comes from, right? So they have to work with all that. Like it took me forever to find a good whiskey sour here. I gotta tell you, it took me forever, and I finally found one in Capcana. It was fantastic.
Where? Which place?
We were talking this little joint that does just a couple nights a week. You were talking about last time.
Oh, that's Roy's spot.
Yeah,
Roy,
yeah,
that's
awesome
his spot, Casa de Medio.
Yeah,
he does the fancy drinks. Roy's got the best drinks in town. Yeah. It's because, you know, Roy's from New York. He was a restaurateur there. He's a bar guy. He's a mixologist. I mean, you know, you go to Roy's bar and you're like, let me get a rum and coke, and he'll look at you like, no, you got to get something special. He makes some of the best drinks here, and Casa de Medio is probably I think, the only real cocktail with bar here, with all kinds of, you know, something that you don't get at your regular place. And he's done a great job of doing that, trying to fuse, what the locals like, because there are a lot of locals that live in Cap Cana. I know people don't know that, but a lot of Dominicans live in Cap Cana, well-to-do Dominicans. So he's mixed those fusion flavors for people here and from people from abroad, because that's one of the biggest challenges. I was talking to someone who's been here for a very long time, and this person said to me, he goes, Mario, 20 years ago, all you had was like 2 types of rum and 2 types of beer in most places, and that was it. There wasn't a lot, they're developing, I think, their food culture now, because I compare it to maybe like Puerto Rico, where I've been to many times, and I think their cuisine and their gastronomy, or whatever we call it, is way more advanced than here, because they're under the U.S.
They are, and I'm curious to see whether food and safety and health codes are going to follow, and regulations are going to follow with as it progresses as well. That'd be interesting to see.
I think that's something that's very necessary, as I've owned a restaurant and I've owned a bar here in this country, and I can tell you that's a huge issue. And you talked about like how the people that work in your place have learned. That's one of the biggest challenges. I know, like we talked about that off camera before we started. People were like, want to come here and open up a restaurant. You're going to have a really hard time, because there is no like school, there's no school. In New York, when I was growing up, I was like, oh, bartending school and that school. No, everybody here just learns from, it's the same as construction. Okay, you put these 2 things here and that comes out like that. Okay, and then he repeats it and that like that. There's no formal training.
And if you're learning, and you don't necessarily need formal training in those things, but if you're learning from the proper way of doing things, and they're not learning from the proper way of doing things, they're learning the way that they're doing it. And I think that's where they're running into issues.
That's what it is, because one of the biggest issues that I had when I had my restaurant in Sosua was, trying to explain to my staff that worked in the kitchen, no, you have to do this. Okay, once you do that, you have to wash the utensil before you touch the other thing, and you do this. And it was a huge struggle of teaching people how to,
And it's of no fault of their own. It's just that literally there's not been a thing, and they've never been taught those things here. So I think there's a huge market for food safety and health classes, and the knowledge there in the restaurants.
Well, guys, as we were talking here, if any of you guys are entrepreneurs and you're looking for a business, I think we figured out what's missing. People always ask me what's missing in the Dominican Republic that I can make money. And sometimes people come up with these weird things. Oh, I want to open up a trinket shop and I want to do this. And I'm like, do you know how much the rent costs here? Do you know how much you have to pay the person to pay them legally, and then you have to pay the taxes? Do you know how much your overhead's going to be? Do you think you're going to make enough to clear and then make 3, 4, 5,000? Because if you're in Punta Cana, if you're living in Punta Cana, Santo Domingo, you need to clear at least 5,000 net a month, net, in order to be able to have some kind of life here. And if you have a family, maybe even more, if you got to have the kid in school, the kids in school or whatever, it can get very expensive. But now you just touched on a very, very important subject. For those of you guys that are watching and that are listening, that's what's missing in this country. Now, you do it in Santo Domingo, you do it with the sucursales in Punta Cana and Santiago, because those are your major cities. You train your people there, and then you have classes and certification for people in food handling, mixology, and all these different things. That's actually a really great business idea for this country. I think it would be killer.
I think it would do very well. I don't know what as far as the governing side to it, the struggles behind getting that going, but I think it's definitely a need for it.
I think right now, because we struggle with that with the real estate licensing,
yeah.
I think it would be a private thing where, like, if you have a business, you could be like, our people are certified from,
right.
The 5-star, right?
It's not mandatory, but it would be. I think that would be the way to go.
Right, and that would be a game changer, because I know myself and many people, if the school or whatever, let's say, does the courses, certifies people and whatever, obviously it's going to get well known. And then people are going to put that up in the restaurant and say, look, our staff is certified, trained at this place that everybody knows. Then it's going to be like me as a consumer. Would I rather go to his restaurant that they're certified, or would I want to go to the other one? Because we all know throughout Latin America, one of the big issues is, getting sick from food handling and quality. And I know I'm going to get a better quality there because his people are trained.
And that's one thing, as North Americans, they know they can trust there because they have the food certificates. They have to go do training every so often. All of the venues have to have all of their stuff in order. So that's a big difference.
I would like to see it done like that. What I didn't like, and I don't know how it is with you guys, and I'll tell you a little bit about New York, right? So in New York, they did the grading, A, B, C, right? Mm-hmm. And it's, it does, I guess, work, right? But it's a giant scam. So I'll tell you what they do, right? They come into your place of your restaurant, right? and they're like, okay, that outlet covers off. That's $5,000, and that thing is misplaced here. So they'll be like, okay, you got $20,000 in fees, right? And we're gonna drop you down to a B minus, but give us $10,000 right now, and we'll keep you at B plus, and we'll negotiate with you. So it's basically they come in and they extort you. They're looking in, like they literally one time when I was managing the restaurant, they were gonna give us a fine because I was like an A minus, which was great, but they were gonna give me a fine for just having an outlet cover that didn't have the top on it somewhere behind the couch or something like that. And then it's just they're looking for stuff, you know what I mean? So it's almost like we're in that fine. We want to do it, but we don't want to get to the abusiveness of that.
It's getting the consistencies, because you get those people that come through that you can pretty much buy them off with anything. You get those other ones that are literally nitpicking anything, kind of are missing the point, and are just saying things, to ruin your day and to disrupt your small business. So I think there's, definitely some room for improvement in their systems as well. But I think the most important fact is that there are systems in place for the food industry.
Exactly. One of the biggest issues we have here, just across the board in all business, I think, or most business, I should say, unless it's like the banking business, which is much more stringent here. But everything else is just there's no system in place. There are no requirements in place, so it's easy to get into business. Any Tom, Dick, and Harry can get into any business that they want, and it doesn't mean they're going to do it the right way, and that affects you as the consumer. And then when the consumer is upset about it, then it's a trickle effect, like this doesn't work, that wasn't good. But I do think now that we're thinking about it, I think somebody, if they came in and they did a class or a school like that and started certifying people in everything, the way they food prep, in mixology, how to clean the place, you know what I mean? How to clean the venues, garbage disposal, kitchen, I know in New York, where I was on top of my kitchen there when I had my restaurant bar, I know how hard I had to work to maintain everything super clean. Could you imagine, like, in places where there's just nothing? That could be a whole nother, that could be a whole nother thing. But we gave you guys a really great business idea on this show. You guys can't say that you don't learn when you come in and you log in here. But anyway, I want to tell you guys, thank you for coming in. Thank you to Samana Group for sponsoring this show. And thank you to the Crest Group, my company right there, Punta Cana and Santo Domingo. We'll find you a place. Rent, buy, but please don't call me for short term. I get stressed out even thinking about it. Thank you, John, for being on the show again with us. I really, really appreciate it, and I hope to have you back on soon.
It's my pleasure. Any chance to get a chance to come down and chat with you, it's a pleasure. It's been awesome.
Awesome, and thank you guys for logging in. Thank you for you guys that are going to be looking at the show later on. Any comments, questions, suggestions, make sure to write me, mariofama@editor.com. My WhatsApp link is right there. You can talk to me, and yep, see you in 2 weeks.
Hi everybody, it's your boy Mario Fama RD, aka Yo soy blanco, pero no soy banco. And yes, it's time. We're finally launching the Mario Fama RD podcast. Now, what's going to be different about this podcast? Well, we're going to take our rose-colored glasses off. We're going to put our real glasses on. And we're going to talk about the hard-hitting subjects that nobody talks about, being an expat here in the Dominican Republic and in Latin America in general. We're going to talk about law. We're going to talk about business. We're going to talk about lifestyles, and everything the Dominican Republic has to offer. The good, the bad, the ugly. Kind of like the Clint Eastwood Spaghetti Western, but here in the Dominican Republic. If you have any questions, we'll answer them for you. We're going to talk about everything that relates to being an expat, not just in Punta Cana, but Santo Domingo, Santiago, the North Coast, the East Coast, West Side, even the West Coast. Everywhere. And if you want to be a patrocinador and have your logos up here and sponsor us, then let me know.